Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you to this afternoon's episode.
Move, accept, and approve for publication.
Thank you so much for, we have a motion to accept proof of publication from Commissioner Zembauer and a second from Commissioner Delary. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
What if somebody voted against that?
I don't know. I don't know if anyone ever has. I guess
could,
we
but
would
if
look
they
at
were
the
on the-
attorney and help.
If they were on the short end, we
figure
just
it out.
continue on.
We only need 3, he says. So this afternoon, we're here for a couple of public hearing items that we're going to do first. They are both quasi-judicial items. So this is the order of process for this afternoon. Our staff is going to present each item for consideration with a staff recommendation, and then the board will have an opportunity to ask questions of staff after their presentations have finished. The applicant will then have an opportunity to make a presentation, and the board will have a chance to ask questions of the presenter once they have finished. Members of the public interested in speaking either for or against any of the items are welcome to make comment. We ask that you would complete either a green or yellow form. This is orange, but I don't have the green or yellow form in front of me. So if you, out on the table, there's a green form. If you would like to have it just submit your comments for the record, there is a yellow form out in the lobby if you would like to actually speak. They should all be out in the lobby, green and yellow. We do color coding around here really well. Members of the public will be allowed to make comment on each item one time. Speakers should state their name and address for the record clearly, and whether you are either for or against. Speakers will be given 3 minutes to speak on an item as an individual, or 6 minutes if you are here representing an HOA and you are speaking in lieu of the other members of your HOA speaking today. If a board member has any questions regarding the speaker's comments, they will have an opportunity to ask those after the speaker's time has expired. Speakers should limit their comments to the pertinent information regarding the agenda item under discussion, please keeping your comments brief. The clerk's office is required to retain any documents, photographs, drawings, etc., so if you show it to the board, please be prepared to leave it with the clerk. Once all the speakers have been heard, the applicant will have an opportunity for rebuttal if necessary, and we will close public comment and then put the matter in the hands of the commission for a recommendation, discussion, or a motion. Following a motion and a second, there will be additional discussion perhaps and a vote taken. Commissioners who do not cast a vote will be considered to have voted in support of the item. In accordance with the operating policies and procedures of the Seminole County Board of County Commissioners, Section 2.175, public participation before the board, comments shall be limited to the subject being considered by the board. All public comments shall avoid personal attacks, abusive language, and redundancy. Disrespectful, rude, irrelevant, or slanderous remarks or disruptive behavior may subject the individual to removal from the board chambers. The chairman may curtail repetitious comments. Since our 2 public hearing items this afternoon, or the first 2 are quasi-judicial, while the board welcomes comments from all persons with an interest in this proceeding, Florida law requires that the board's decision in a quasi-judicial action be supported by competent substantial evidence. Competent substantial evidence is evidence as a reasonable mind would accept as adequate to support a conclusion. There must be a factual basis in the record to support opinion testimony from both expert and non-expert witnesses. Persons presenting testimony to the board may rely on factual information that they present, that is presented by a county staff member, that the applicant presented, or on factual information included in the county staff report to support their testimony. All persons who present written materials to the board for consideration must ensure, again, that a copy is provided to the clerk for inclusion in the record of the official minutes of the meeting. Has any commissioner received any oral or written communication regarding quasi-judicial items? If so, please disclose the substance of the communication and identify the person making the communication. Commissioner Herr. Oh, sorry, I'm just going to go down the...
That's okay. I have received one email on item number 23, and my ex parte has been submitted electronically.
All right. Commissioner Delary?
Madam Chairman, I received information on item number 22, it's a self-storage, as well as 23, and I'll be submitting that not just electronically, but here today. Can you forward that to the clerk?
Madam Chair, I've received communication on item 23 that has been submitted electronically by my aide.
Right.
And Commissioner, I just received letter on item 23, and that's all communications I've had.
Okay, thank you. Mine also has been submitted electronically, and they're related to item 23 as well. All right, our first item is item number 22. The project manager is Annie Silloway.
Good afternoon. Annie Silloway, Senior Planner, Development Services. I will be presenting Store Space Altamont. This is a rezone from PD Plan Development to a PD Plan Development for a proposed self-storage facility on approximately 6.85 acres, located approximately a quarter mile west of US 1792 at the corner of Anchor Road and Merritt Street. On June 9, 2009, Seminole County approved the Anchor Road Plan Development Rezone and Future Land Use Map Amendment consisting of C3, general commercial and wholesale, permitted uses, and outdoor storage on the subject site. The applicant is limiting the allowable uses to only allow self-storage facility and prohibiting outdoor storage on site. In order to achieve compatibility with the adjacent residential subdivision to the west, the applicant has agreed to the following conditions: landscape buffers around the entire portion of the site, and more detailed buffer components will be defined at the time of final development plan. Along the west portion of the site, there will be a 15-foot landscape buffer with a 6-foot-high PVC fence, as well as an additional 35-foot tree preservation area. All of the proposed site lighting will be fully shielded, and the light pole shall not exceed 16 feet in height. The building will include architectural trim design on portions of the parapet as shown on the architectural renderings submitted by the applicant and will be placed in the development order as Exhibit C. And windows will only be placed facing Merritt Avenue and Anchor Road. There will be no windows facing west towards the existing residential neighborhood. The applicant is varying from the off-street parking requirements, and the applicant for the proposed site is providing 13 spaces for the 118,932 square foot building. Water and sewer will be provided by the City of Castleberry, and a community meeting was held on January 25th, 2023, and 6 people attended the meeting. The proposed plan development zoning classification is compatible with the adjacent properties with existing industrial developments in the area, which are located within the City of Castleberry. The proposed building is in keeping with the surrounding warehouse uses and will not exceed the previously approved floor area ratio of 0.40 that was approved in 2009. The site and the proposed plan development will generate minimal demand of roadway and utility capacity. Staff finds the rezoning request to plan development to be consistent with the comprehensive plan and the Seminole County Land Development Code. On May 3rd, 2023, the Planning and Zoning Commission voted unanimously to recommend the Board of County Commissioners adopt the proposed ordinance enacting a rezone from PD Plan Development to PD Plan Development and approve the associated development order and master development plan. Staff recommends the Board of County Commissioners adopt the proposed ordinance enacting a rezone from PD Plan Development to PD Plan Development and approve the associated development order and master development plan for 6.85 acres located approximately a quarter mile west of Highway 1792 at the corner of Anchor Road and Merritt Street. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you so much. Any questions of staff? All right, thank you very much. We'll let you know. Is the applicant here, and do they wish to make a presentation?
Good afternoon. McGregor Love, 215 North Eola Drive, Orlando, Florida. I want to thank staff for working with us throughout this project and putting together their staff report. We concur with their recommendation for approval and all of the conditions of development as well. We're here to answer any questions. We also have the project engineer who's here if you have any technical questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any questions of the applicant? Commissioner Constantine.
Looking at the property as it currently exists, a lot of trees.
Yes, sir.
But your plan looks like no trees. What is your plan to preserve the trees and stick to our own tree ordinance?
Correct. And so we are, and we're bound to under the current ordinance to maintain a tree preservation area. Along the west, it's 35 feet at a minimum. And along the other portions of the property, we have a certain tree preservation area. And I don't have the exact plan in front of me, but if I could pull it up, there are around at least the west and the east, there is a tree preservation buffer area. And if you give me a moment, I can let you know exactly what that is, or if staff is able to find that as well. So we have, along the west, it's a 35-foot tree preservation area.
I can help out. Annie Silloway, Development Services. So along the west, there is a total of tree plantings, 35 feet of tree preservation area, as well as a 15-foot landscape buffer along the west. I think along the east is going to be a 10-foot landscape buffer. And along the south is 10 feet, and along the east is, I think, 10 feet. They will be providing landscape buffers all the way around the proposed site.
And just to clarify, and thank you, Annie, the ordinance currently anticipates 10-foot to the north, 15-foot landscape buffer to the south, to the east a 15-foot landscape buffer, and to the west a 15-foot landscape buffer, along with the tree preservation buffer, along with, and at the west, we also have a 6-foot vinyl fence on the exterior of the tree preservation area.
Does that answer your question, Commissioner Constantine?
It answers what his plan is, yes.
All right, great, thank you so much. Any other questions for the applicant? All right, we'll let you know if there are any other questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Beach, is there anyone from the public who would like to address us on this item?
Not on this item.
No? All right. Is there anyone in the public who maybe forgot to fill out a green or yellow form, depending on your color preference of choice?
Couldn't find one.
No, couldn't find a form? All right, with that, we'll close the public hearing. Thank you.
Sure.
Commissioner Zembauer,
I know this is your district. I'm prepared to make a motion if you so desire.
please.
I will make a motion to move a rezone from PD plan development to PD plan development for proposed self-storage facility on approximately 6.85 acres located approximately a quarter mile west of US Highway 1792 at the corner of Anchor Road and Merritt Street.
Second.
There's a motion from Commissioner Zembauer, a second from Commissioner Delary. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Ms.
Thank you.
Holloway.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Item number 23 is in Commissioner Delary's district. The project manager is Angie Gates.
Good afternoon, Angie Gates, planner with Development Services. Item number 23 is an appeal of the Board of Adjustment decision to deny the variance request for the west side street setback from 25 feet to 6 inches for a fence in the R1A Single Family Dwelling District, and more particularly known as 1252 Valley Creek Circle. In March of 2022, Mossy Oak Fence applied for a building permit number 224419, to place a 6-foot PVC privacy fence at 1252 Valley Creek Run. The site plan was denied by the project coordinator due to the fence not meeting the side street setback of 25 feet. They were given the options to apply for a variance, revise the site plan so that it could meet the minimum 25-foot side street setback. Instead of a privacy fence, they could replace the privacy fence with an open-type fencing. Or they could submit a site plan locating the fence at 15 feet, and we would send it to traffic engineering for their approval. In May of 2022, Mossy Oak Fence submitted a letter to the building department to void the permit due to the customer canceling the contract. When these types of letters are submitted to the building department, an inspection is done to make sure that the work isn't performed prior to the building permit being voided. In June 2022, the inspection was completed and the fence was placed without a building permit being issued, and a notice of violation was sent to the appellants Andrew Gottshaw and Marta Barcia. On October 24th, 2022, the appellants applied for a variance from 25 feet to 3.5 feet, and the variance request was denied. After the appellants received an updated survey, they discovered that the fence was only 6 inches at the closest point from the side street property line. They then applied for another variance on April 24th, 2023, and the variance request was denied again. The appellants filed a notice of appeal on May 4th, 2023, which brings us before you today. Based on the information, findings, conclusions included in the referenced in the agenda memorandum prepared in association with the original action taken by the Board of Adjustment at its meeting on April 24th, 2023, and the testimony presented at the aforementioned meeting, staff recommends the Board of County Commissioners uphold the decision of the Board of Adjustment to deny the request for a side street west setback variance from 25 feet to 6 inches for a privacy fence in the R1A Single Family Dwelling District. Excuse me. This concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Any questions? Commissioner Zembauer?
I do have a question. This may be for John. I'm looking at the aerial here, and I want to make sure two things. Is that a sidewalk that is partially running down Maidenwood Way that terminates about halfway up this property line? That's the first question.
There is a sidewalk, but it doesn't terminate.
Continues.
It doesn't,
It continues all the way around the circle?
That's correct.
yes.
I guess I don't have a good enough picture. Okay. Very good. I just wanted to make sure of that. Thank you.
All right, any other questions for staff? No? All right, we'll let you know if we have additional questions. Thank you. Is the applicant here, and do they wish to make a presentation? Absolutely. Then now is your time.
Sounds good.
Yep. If you would state your name and address for the record, and let the board know what it is you would like us to hear.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for having us. Thank you for the time. My name is Andrew Gottschall. I'm an owner of 1252 Valley Creek Run here in Seminole County. I'm here with my wife, Marta, as well as I'd like to thank several of our neighbors of Lost Creek for being here. We've got Mark Boardman, we've got Anna, we've got our fence consultant, Maria. Appreciate her being here through this 15-month saga. And of course, Dr. Dan Coleman, our HOA board president, all in support. We'd also like to thank the other, 40 people that signed in support of our fence. They couldn't be here today on a work day. We're all skipping out of work to try to break down some barriers here and explain based on values as opposed to, maybe these different inches that you see or distances, why we need a fence. So not 100% sure of protocol, so please feel free to cut me off if I do something wrong. Don't do this regularly. Also feel free to ask questions throughout. I'm happy to answer those. We did file quite a really, thank you, Marta, for putting all that together. We put together a package that explains kind of the last 15 months that we've been through with the various scenarios and attempts to just use some, what I would consider common sense to approve this replacement fence. I did like to see that picture that was up there. There's always been a fence in this location. That says 2016. There's been, as you can see, one thing I point out here is we moved in 2020. I think our neighbors are very pleased with us being the new neighbors here in Seminole County, paying taxes, taking down the forest that was there. And that fence that was there was a rickety wooden fence, nails sticking out, panels coming out, probably didn't have foundations. Not sure personally if it was permitted or not. We try to do our process appropriately. But anyways, I want to just circle back and again, just summarize. I can go into all the details. How much time do I have? 15 minutes?
This is your application, so this is your opportunity to make a presentation. So,
It's a question of attention span.
right.
Fantastic.
You have to
But you're doing
judge.
great.
You all
Yeah.
cut me off whenever the
I will.
reason hits.
I will.
Advice I give you is don't oversell.
Madam Chair is not shy about cutting.
No, that's fine. So what I'm gonna come back to, we seem to have a, maybe a fence, so to speak, between us and the previous board that we were going. And not trying to get inside their heads. I'm not sure what the challenge was. Perhaps it was because we followed the advice of Mossy Oak, our contractor, to go ahead and sign their waiver and move ahead, as they probably do with thousands of fences around the county.
You don't want inside of our heads.
No, not inside of your heads, inside of their heads. So anyways, that was probably our mistake that we'll vouch for. Now we're talking to you as the owners. We're humans here. We're tax-paying. When you come to a fence like you see there, that was properly installed with the right foundations and so forth, and I'll leave all the technical aspects to Maria if we have any questions on distances and so forth. But for us, it comes down to more than privacy. It comes down to safety. We started this process, the initial permit process, which of course we were trying to do the right way. We wouldn't have filed for a permit if we just wanted. We could have just installed it, most likely, and not had any of these issues. Our baby, Martha was pregnant with our firstborn, James, and he was born in March 17th of last year. So seeing that the fence was rickety and wooden and had nails coming out of it, and we have a pool in the backyard, I don't know if you could see from the aerial. We also installed, since we moved in, a cage, a fully permitted cage, which you don't see there in those photos. So again, we're folks that do things the right way. Looking to the future with our baby, we want to make sure that what is safety about? It's about keeping what you want to keep safe in, and what we also want to keep our neighbors safe. So we wanted to keep some of our neighbors out of our backyard. So talking about our personal, our family, James is now 14 months, going on 15 months this Saturday. He started walking about a month and a half ago. That's our side yard there. That's really the only area besides the pool that he's got to grow up and run around in. Push right now. He's been pushing his cart around over there, and now he's starting to walk on his own. If we don't have a fence, I can't really let him outside. I can't let him outside to play. The 25-foot setback, by the way, is in our bedroom. It is not really a sensible setback. The entire neighborhood wasn't built to that in the 90s. You'll see any number of fences, which Maria can comment on. We also have, it was also good that we saw in the presentation a variety of variances that look very similar to ours in the neighborhood that we live in, and we've traveled around the neighborhoods, dotting the county all over the place and seen fences like this all over. So again, we've got our 14-month-old that we want to keep inside our fence, safe to play. We've got a pool fence around our pool. We need a perimeter fence around our property in order so that James can play with our dog. We have a golden retriever, Fleetwood. He is not the most sensible dog. He's well trained. He sits on command, but he is not going to, if he sees Anna, coming with Maria, her baby girl, and we don't have a fence, he's going to run, and there's cars. Can we go back to that aerial? This is the main entrance of our, we get the most traffic. The entryway is just where it says aerial, plan south there. That is the entrance to our property, to our neighborhood, 100-unit neighborhood, thereabouts. So everybody either goes straight down Maidenwood to get to their house or comes in and takes a right on Valley Creek. Everybody in our neighborhood knows who we are, knows our baby, knows our dog. So obviously there's a privacy issue there as well. But the most important thing to us is safety. Safety of our children, as well as safety of our dog. And then not to mention, it's been great, the turnover in the neighborhood. We've got a ton of new fresh families and young kids. That's a bus stop at that corner. So every morning between August and May, that's where kids are congregating. We do not want to have those kids moseying into our yard, potentially getting into our pool. You hear about it almost weekly now of kids dying from falling into pools. Yes, we have the pool fence, but we do not want to be responsible for a child getting into our yard because a fence, a privacy and safety fence, has been declined and denied to us for whatever the reasons might have been. We've also seen right in around our neighborhood cars going through fences. I don't know if they're drunk or what, but there's right across, we live right next to Lake Howell High School. If you drive past there, you'll see caution tape right now. A car went directly through the intersection, went through a brick wall. Now, I don't think that our PVC fence is going to completely stop a car if a person is out of control driving, but it's certainly better than having absolutely nothing there. If my child and my dog are playing outside, or anybody else is over, Maria is over with Anna, or anybody else from our neighborhood. So I just would hate to have anything happen because we're not allowed to have a fence on the property that we pay taxes on. So it's all about, for us, safety, keeping what we love inside, and safety, keeping the folks that we want to keep safe at the bus stop outside of our property. So I'm glad to go through. I've got a number of other points.
I think this might be a good time to give the board an opportunity
Absolutely.
to ask you any questions that they may have.
I would welcome it.
And then we can go from there. Commissioner Delary, this is your
I'm
district.
pretty secure with what I want to do, and I think they'll be happy in the long run, but we just need to get through this process.
Okay. Unless you have anything else?
No, I'm happy to pause there. I
Okay.
appreciate your time.
All right, thank you. If any other board members have questions, we'll be sure and call you back up.
I look forward to it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Are there any members of the public here to speak on this item?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Anna Maria, with the last name beginning with an A? Andrade, yes. Followed by Mark Boardman.
Okay, and you'll have 3 minutes if you would state your name and address for the record.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for hearing us. My name is Ana Maria Andrade. Address is 1128 Valley Creek Run, Winter Park, Florida. I'm here to tell you that Martha and me, we carpool our kids. They go to the same daycare. And in the afternoon, I work in a hospital and I have 12-hour shifts sometimes. My daughter stays in her house after school and she plays with James. They play outside. I have many pictures to show you. I don't want to worry about the safety of my daughter when she's at Martha's house. They are helping me while I work in a children's hospital. And I don't want to be thinking about my baby with their baby and Fleetwood as well. So since I moved there 2019, there has been a fence over there. It was a horrible fence. This one is a beautiful white fence where I can feel our kids will be safe. My daughter can be outside playing with James. And every single day, when you drive past their house, you will see kids around it all the time. There is a bus stop there. You can see people from other neighborhoods go and park their cars there, waiting for their children to come back from school. So thank you so much. This is all I have to say. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much. The next speaker?
Mark Boardman. Followed by Dr. Daniel Coleman.
Mr. Boardman, thank you.
My name is Mark Boardman. I live at 1108 Valley Creek Run since they built the place. I'm going to try to speak to the facts instead of some of the emotions that are involved in this. This house was a total derelict, seriously, before these people bought it and upgraded it and made it a part of the neighborhood. That's a fact. It's added value to our neighborhood. We're looking at a small variance to satisfy our neighborhood. We like the fence. It's looking for just a little bit of variance to give these people what they need and what we need as a neighborhood. And we're not asking for somebody to move, walls and everything else. It's something that can be moved if it had to be moved for a safety reason, fires, whatever else. It's not going to block safety of the neighborhood. Pardon me? Did I?
He was just clearing his
Just
throat.
clearing.
Okay, Mr. Cox. So yes, it's factually it doesn't obstruct the sidewalk. It adds aesthetics to the neighborhood. Those are facts. The people in the neighborhood like the fence. We need to understand that we're just asking for a small variance. We're not asking that they take it out to the sidewalk. We get all the time. I've had the question at my property, I want to put pavers in my driveway, but I can't pave from the end of the driveway through the curb set onto the pavement because that belongs to the county. They repair it. So, those things I understand, but we got to understand that this has added value to the neighborhood. The people in the neighborhood want, those are facts. It's a small variance in itself that we're asking for them, and we are standing in support of them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Coleman?
I go by Dan. My name is Daniel Coleman. I live at 1140 Valley Creek Run, Winter Park, Florida. I've been a resident, we've owned there for more than 25 years. I want the commission to focus on 3 issues. Number 1, there has been a fence in that location for the life of that home. It was built in 1996. As Andrew said, part of that fence was dilapidated. When the bank sold that property to a flipper, he put in a brand-new wooden fence, the same location. At that time, there was the old fence and shrubs going out to the edge of the sidewalk. So I want you to all realize this is not a replacement. This is not a new fence. This is a replacement of an existing fence that has been there for more than 2 centuries. Secondly, when they proposed replacing the wooden fence in that area with a vinyl fence, it was brought before the board. Oh, by the way, I am president, as they said, of the HOA. Andrew brought it to the board, and it passed 5 and 1 abstention, which was Andrew. What they did, is they replaced a wooden fence with the PVC fence, which we say is our standard. And the most compelling reason I want this approved, and I would love to have a motion from Lee or anyone else to say move forward with it, but this is an area in which Maiden Way and Valley Creek Run has vehicles, trucks, school buses coming in there all the time. When they turn in, it's less than, I'm going to say, about 75 feet. They turn right onto Valley Creek Run. Others go straight ahead. Now, that house is 21 feet from the edge of the sidewalk. Can't meet it. They cannot run the fence down alongside of the house because the pool enclosure would be right next to it. More importantly, we have young children in the community, and it is my responsibility and the board's responsibility to make sure we have a safe environment for them to play. The only place they can play is either in that area, the 21 feet or 25 feet, and they're right next to the traffic. That is a dangerous situation. At the current time, by having the fence where it is, they have an area, I think I have more than 3 minutes, right? But they have an area between the pool and the fence.
Yeah, but they've all been speaking.
They have an area between the pool and the fence where they can play. Not only their children, but the children that come for them. I personally do not want to have a child being killed by traffic on me for the rest of my life, and I'm sure you don't either.
Thank you very much, Dr. Coleman.
So I'm requesting that you grant this variance.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak on this item?
Not for this item.
If you would like to speak, we need you to fill out a form. Who are you? The contractor. Okay. Is this someone who's speaking on your behalf? Yes. Okay. Be sure and fill out a form for Ms. Beach, if you would, on the way out.
Thank you so much. I'm Maria, the owner of On the Line Fence, and I met Marta actually at a variance meeting because I take a lot of initiative with my clients to do the right thing all the time, and I'm the one that comes on their behalf and presents the reasons why we need a variance. So one thing I just wanted to point out is 0.5 or 6 inches seems like, it's like very close, but the only reason that we're asking for that is because of the way that the property line runs. It's like more rounded, and the way that the variance works is that you have to request the closest side, like whatever the closest side of that fence is to the property line. With that said, the closest side to the fence is one panel, which is about 8 feet, and that's the reason why we're asking for the 0.6. and not 5 feet or, something around that area. But I just wanted to clarify that with you guys, because that's what I was actually, I had applied for a variance for them after the fact, when I kind of brought myself into the situation to try to assist them. In addition to getting a brand-new survey, I tried to present it to the board, because at the first meeting, that was one of their concerns, was that the survey that they presented at the first variance was not up to date. So I actually partner with a surveying company for my company, and we got them a new survey. And so there were some, things that were discovered as far as footage and what was actually their property line and what wasn't. But I did want to mention that to you guys, that the 0.6 is because of that upper corner area, and the rest of the fence is about 5 feet away. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you being here. Commissioner Delary?
Are we done with input?
Well, I think that's the last person that is planning to speak. Before I close public comment, is there anyone else here who wanted to speak but neglected to fill out a form? Okay, we'll close public comment then. Commissioner Delary?
First of all, thank you for being here. I think you have a very lovely home. I'm sorry that sometimes requests for variances go denied, but that's how the process works sometimes. Looking at this, I can definitely see that Maidenwood Way Road has a curve to it. The sidewalk also is serpentined as well, which provides an additional issue to anyone putting a fence in. And looking at this, and you can see where they're asking for a 6-inch variance for the fence. Well, that's because of the sidewalk is serpentine. I mean, it's the facts of life. I can also tell you that there was a fence there prior to this new fence being put there. I've asked staff. There is no issues with line of sight on traffic. The fact there was an existing fence there, to me, is a lot of the bearing of why a variance should be granted. I see that this is a main thoroughfare. I've looked at it in great depth. It meets other criteria that I believe there is a hardship because of the serpentine sidewalk, and only a small portion of the fence is needing the 6 inches because of that sidewalk. If you look at the rest of the site map that's in our book, there is an additional distance on that fence out of that sidewalk is serpentining, and on the other side of the downward side of the street by Valley Creek, you can see that it's 5 feet 6 inches away from the sidewalk. So it actually shows that the sidewalk is moving back and forth where this fence is actually straight. So, Madam Chair, if there's no objections, I'd like to make a motion. If there's any additional questions, we can handle it after the motion is made, if you don't mind.
Yep.
So with that, Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to overturn the Board of Adjustment's decision to approve the request of the side street west setback variance from 25 feet to 6 inches as presented here in the book for the fence in a R1A single-family dwelling district as presented here in the site plan depicts.
Second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Delary, a second by Commissioner Zenbauer. Questions? Commissioner Herr? Under
Question for
discussion?
staff. And I just want to get the record straight. Don't panic. This is not a 6-inch variance. This is a variance from 25 feet to 6 inches, which is a variance of 24 and a half feet.
Yes.
Now, the fact that what I'm hearing is that we have a requirement of a 25-foot setback, but we allowed homes to be built beyond the point where a 25-foot setback would make any sense, that's a whole separate issue.
Those homes were approved by traffic engineering. In the R1 and the R1A zoning districts, traffic engineering can approve up as low as 15 feet without applying for a variance.
Okay, so then another way to look at this is that it's a variance from 15 feet to 6 inches, which is a significant variance. And the only reason why I bring that up is because I really, first of all, the Board of Adjustments does a good service to the community. They are volunteers, and they're trying to follow the letter of the law, and I appreciate that. The second piece is that this wasn't an argument over 6 inches. And the process is the process for a reason, and we probably could have come to a conclusion without you having to go through all this angst had we all worked together from the very beginning. And I just want that message to be out there loud and clear that we are not the departments of saying no. We often work to find, under Rebecca's leadership, find solutions for our citizens. So working around it is not the best solution. I appreciate that it sounds like you stepped in after Mossy Oak did this. And so I appreciate that you guys have all connected, and all that is good, but the notion that this is a 6-inch variance, I just wanted it on the record that it's not. With that, I will be voting yes. Don't panic, as I said. It's just icky.
And Madam Chair, to me, this makes sense, and it is replacing an existing fence that was there. It's shown in the evidence that's presented here today.
An unpermitted fence.
but it's unpermitted, but
Right.
it's been there. And I see no reason why we shouldn't move forward.
Well, we're going to let everybody weigh in if they'd like to. Commissioner Zembauer?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is, we don't get to see these very often, but from time to time we do. I would very much like our county manager to work with staff to determine if some of these, and I'm not saying this is one of them, could be a staff-level decision or review without putting the public through the Board of Appeals and coming through the BCC and taking their valuable time away from their family, as well as coming before us. I know ultimately, because of the code, they ultimately want the Board of County Commission to bless those decisions. But I think almost every one of these, there's been circumstances that I believe staff really could work with all the parties and find a resolution before going through this, who knows, 6-month, year process. I very much think we ought to be looking at that.
Ms. Hammock, would you like to address the board?
Yes, thank you. For the record, Rebecca Hammock, Development Services Director. So 2 things. We do have an administrative variance, and we are allowed on a staff level to grant a variance up to 10% of the requirement. But when it exceeds that, it does have to go to the Board of Adjustment. We are also proposing an amendment in the Land Development Code for setbacks for fences along that have side street setbacks, which end up equating to a front yard setback. So we are reducing that setback requirement for fences to 5 feet with traffic engineering approval. So in this case, a majority of their fence would likely meet that new criteria. It's just that one portion, that one panel that they mentioned.
Well, I think what I'm hearing, and if I'm looking at the documents right, it's a 6-inch setback, not a 5-foot or 25-foot.
At the pinch point.
Yeah, at the pinch point, correct.
Correct.
Yes.
And I think these types of things often are, after our county engineers looked at, comes down to a little bit of a common sense issue. What's the trend in the neighborhood? I know in Commissioner Constantine's district, from time to time, we get some of the older areas that fences have been there for a long time. A new owner comes in, wants to build a fence, they can't do it. Just a thought, I think, to make efficient everybody's time, we should at least look at it.
So, and just to clarify, my understanding is that the original wooden fence that was there was unpermitted. Then when it was removed, the new fence was put in also without a permit, and then it was a construction without a permit, a code enforcement violation. And then, of course, when it came through to get a permit, it was noticed that it didn't meet the setback requirements, so it needed a variance.
Sure.
And there is variance criteria within the code, and if it's a self-created hardship, then it's unfortunately something that staff can't normally support.
Commissioner Constantine?
Well, I think this brings up 2 problems, or potential opportunities, let's put it that way. First one is what Commissioner Zembauer said, which is something that I remember long ago that I said also, because I don't know of very many jurisdictions in the state that actually have code enforcement come to the board. They usually are administrative, and I was looking around at a number of the other communities, cities in this area, and I don't know of one that has it go before the board. That's the first thing. But the second thing is that, when somebody is just not getting a permit, that's a bigger problem, I think, than even the process we have right now. The process is good, but we can look at it and see if we could streamline it a little bit and maybe not have to see these from time, as we are right now. But the permitting is something that I think that we've got to also look at, because there's a great deal of, it seems that almost everyone that comes before us was not permitted before it was built. So that's, in my opinion, a bigger problem, is that people are going out and building things without a permit, and then it's the old adage, don't, ask for forgiveness, not ask for, permission. And so I think we need to look at that a little bit more, potential, as well as the possibility of streamlining this system, as Commissioner Zimbauer mentioned.
I appreciate all the input from the board, certainly. Thank you all so much for being here. For the record, I'm going to kind of chime in a little bit on Commissioner Herr's line of thinking, and also don't panic. It's really important that when we talk about competent, substantial evidence in a quasi-judicial hearing, that you recognize that the board is not about to make a decision based on babies and puppies. As much as we love babies and puppies, that's not what this board can make a decision on. So I really appreciate your consultant and the time that was spent and looking at the unique situation of this particular property, which you did not create. And I think that's important to get on the record. So there's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. We love babies and puppies. We love babies and puppies.
Go Fleetwood.
All right.
Read any books lately?
Item number 24 is a legislative public hearing that's regarding the East Crystal Chain of Lakes MSBU. Mr. Eason is here to present.
Good afternoon, Board of Commissioners, Chairman Lockhart, Michael Eason Jr. from the MSBU program, representing the Department of Resource Management in the East Crystal Chain of Lakes community. East Crystal Chain of Lakes MSBU was created in 2020 and included funding provisions for specific public services to be provided in 2 phases. The purpose of this public hearing item is to finalize the capital assessment for the East Crystal Chain of Lakes Phase 1 services according to the provisions set forth by Ordinance 2021-3. Based on actual project costs of $337,049, the county funding assistance of $17,500, and also adding in MSBU at the administration fee and interest of $104,643.72. The cost allocated for collection by non-ad valorem assessment is $424,192.72. The new amount for actual project cost reflects a slight increase from the preliminary cost estimate, which was initially at $333,500. Due to a request from the community for an aeration system, which produced additional fees for cost and installation. Accordingly, the capital assessment per property is also slightly increased from the preliminary estimated amount, which was at that time in 2020, $1,605 per waterfront unit. It is now at actual cost revised to $1,634 per waterfront unit. The owners of assessed properties have the option of paying the capital assessment in full without financing fees within 30 days following the filing of the resolution, or property owners can participate in the installment payment plan offered by the county, which consists of 10 scheduled payments to be billed and collected by the Seminole County tax collector via annual property tax bills. The first installment billing would be included on the 2023 tax roll. Following public input, the action requested is for the board to approve the resolution that confirms the assessment assigned for the East Crystal Chain of Lakes Phase 1 services at actual cost. And this MSBU is located within Commission District 4. This concludes my presentation, and I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Eason. This is in my district, but any questions for Mr. Eason or anyone else? Would anyone be interested in making a motion on my behalf?
I'll move motion to approve act of resolution confirming the non-ad valorem capital assessment for the East Crystal Chain of Lakes Lake Management MSBU as per Phase 1 completion and actual cost for Phase 1 restoration services.
Second.
So motion by Zimbauer, second by Constantine.
Before you vote, you need to open it up to a public hearing.
Oh, my apologies. Are there any, I was thinking Shaney would do this if there was, but thank you for catching me. All right, so we're going to let the record reflect that there is no one here to make public comment on this item. There's a motion by Zimbauer, second by Constantine. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, and you are also presenting item number 25.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. I would like to disclose before we present this item that no notice was given on this item. It is typically done through the consent. It's normally brought before you all in the form of a consent agenda item. I do apologize, our program, MSP, we're still getting used to Legislar, and we accidentally input this item as a public hearing item. And we caught that on last Friday. We conferred with our legal representatives, and they gave us the green light to go ahead and present the item this way. But it's normally presented to you all as a consent item.
Well, if that's the case, I'll move approval. Item number 25, adopt a resolution to establish non-ad valorem variable rate assessment for tax year 2023.
Second.
There's a motion by Zenbauer, a second by Delari. Is there any member of the public here who would like to speak? They were really quick, so I was just going with it. I don't see any members of the public here who would like to address the board, so we'll close the public input on that item. Any further discussion? Commissioner Herr.
If there's any chance that this creates a problem later on, could we also put it through on a consent agenda just to be safe? Or are we 100% certain this is not an issue?
Public hearing is
More.
a, well,
But was
you're
it
giving more
noticed?
notice and more discussion on the item as a public agenda item as opposed to having it on the consent agenda. So there would be no reason to do it because it would be a less intense type of hearing than you're holding now.
I hear you, and I love that answer. And what I heard was this was not noticed.
It does not need to be noticed. It's a
Okay,
resolution.
thank you for that. There we go. All set.
Hence the confusion.
Good. Okay, motion and a second discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
And Mr. Eason, you're not the only one that struggles with Legistar. Don't want you to feel bad about that.
Thank you, sir.
Learning
And
curve.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
Just to further explain a little bit, this is a resolution that is establishing the non-ad valorem variable rate. It is not setting the rate. It is staff's suggested rate. It is given to you to authorize them now to go forward with the formal notification procedure so the rate can then be fully brought through the process and subject to public hearings before it goes on to the tax bill through your tax bill hearings.
I appreciate you getting that on the record because that did, the way that panned, that could be questioned later on, and I'd rather not go through it twice.
County Manager's Report, we have a couple of items, and then anything else that you want to update us on?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chairman and Commissioners. The first one, I'd like to give an update on the Yarborough property that we have been discussing, seems like at every meeting. But if you remember at the last board meeting, you had requested that I come back to the board and look at a couple options that the board could consider as we move forward with the Yarborough property acquisition. And so I have come up with three options. The first option would be to continue the current path with the Florida Forever application. As you heard from Mr. Doerr this morning during the update on Seminole Forever, we're actually making great progress on our Florida Forever application. Mr. Doerr made a presentation to the Florida Forever Committee last Friday. Went really well. They voted 6-0 to move our application forward. They also have already got a hold of us, as you know, contacted us, and they are doing a site visit next Wednesday, the 21st. So they're bringing a team of 10 people to come out and do the site inspection and look at the site. Our staff will be meeting them there as well. We also, after moving our application forward, if you remember, we told you there was a certain points within the application that the ARC would, I call it the ARC, the Florida Forever program would be reviewing our application. The next step would probably be September, October. However, once they after they approved our application, they have already set the date for our next review of the application, and it is on August 11th, and so they've already let us know that. So this actually was it was very surprising, but very good for us that it's moving along quicker than what we had intended. So that is the good news. We've also got a quote. Ms. Kuntz is working on this, is a quote to start the appraisal process. We've got that ready to go, so we're ready to move forward on that as well. So if we continue with that option, that's an update. We're making very good progress on that. The second option would actually be to withdraw from the Florida Forever application process. I have had discussions with the family's representative. We could look at purchasing agreements with them over multiple years. That way, we didn't have to pay everything up front, and that we could look at other grant opportunities over the next couple of years to actually pay for whatever the purchase price would be. So that's an option that the board would have. And then the final option would be some sort of hybrid type that we would continue on with the Florida Forever application, as well as doing some sort of memorandum of understanding. As you all know, I have said this time to time here at the board. My only fear is that it would jeopardize the Florida Forever application. Commissioner Zimbauer asked that it be in writing. As of now, we have not got it in writing. So I verified with our staff. I was like, educate me again or remind me again how we got that information. When we chose to go forward with this application process, when the Florida Forever staff actually told us that as we were going through the application process, that if we participated, that it would be a disqualifier for the application. We have since went back to the Florida Forever staff, and we have not to this date have received anything in writing. Our great county attorney here actually got his staff involved, and they have contacted the state's real estate office as well to get it either verbally or in writing. And as of this morning,
as of right now, I still haven't received.
They still have not received anything from the state. So again, so those are like I said, the three options. Of course, you know me, I like to go for the for sure thing and then go through the process. I would not have a problem with recommending a hybrid piece if one thing that just doesn't sit with me, I just don't know that piece about if it would jeopardize our application. So those are the three options here, and just make sure, Mr. Durr, did I cover everything? All right.
Thumbs up. There was a thumbs up from
They
the
have been
row.
working, like I said, diligently on this and have really had a big lift and pushing it forward, and it seems like we're making great progress with it. If it doesn't seem that if we go through this process and it doesn't, we don't get funded, then of course there's other opportunities, but that's where we are at this date.
The one thing that I will just throw in here before we have a whole lot of comment and feedback, asking someone to put in writing that when something is competition, when there appears to be competition or another sale, that then we're not as interested. I think what I see is if the state thinks perhaps that there is someone else who is going to buy this property, then they don't have the need to buy the property for us because, there's already another buyer who might be interested in putting this in conservation. I just feel like the more we talk about being interested in this property publicly, the more we jeopardize it, and it doesn't necessarily have to be put in writing to kind of connect those dots, from my perspective. Commissioner Zimbauer?
I understand what Commissioner Lockhart is stating and understand that thought process. I think Paul Owens from 1,000 Friends of Florida summed it up pretty good this morning, which is if you want to move this project along, you've got to have some interest. And the state's going to look at, are you a participant or are you not a participant? What I see is we're late in the game in getting to Florida Forever compared to so many other projects that are out there. There's projects that have already been ranked and have been in the ranking for multiple years. Now, that said, that group can make those decisions to change that ranking at any given time. But I think at the end of the day, we have to be honest with ourselves from the standpoint of, again, if Florida Forever has something on the radar already ranked that is $15 million to purchase 12,000 acres, guess who's going to get the call? More likely than not. So my concern is knowing that Ms. Yarborough has now, as a matriarch, does not have full control. It's now in the hands of the family, and things happen after someone passes, that it puts urgency to things. And I think for this scenario, we need to look at not necessarily today, but 20 years, 30 years down the road. And so I would very much like us to move forward with a hybrid and at least do the due diligence of talking to the family, see what, what the price points are going to be once the appraisal's done, see what terms would be permitted. And there's nothing wrong with, by example, we may take down a portion of it, or maybe there's a discussion where we take the front 1,000 acres, the front 600 acre, whatever that is. And I can tell you there are other Florida Forever projects that are going through the system in joint purchasing. So I don't know that automatically disqualifies it, but to Commissioner Lockhart's point, there may be some concern there. And the fact that you can't get it in writing, at least thus far, tells me they're not going to commit, because there's literally 100 other projects out there that if they're going to commit for one, they got to commit for all. So I'd like to hear my fellow commissioners' input on that. My fear is, Bill Hyde this morning, like his discussion was, look, it's got entitlements. Not only are we going to take off the tax roll, these 300 possible homes that could go, which is a cost to consideration, but at the end of the day, I have to look at this in my district as a long-term benefit to this county, not the next 2 years or 5 years. We already know we're in a situation in this county where a decade, 2 decades from now, we're not going to be able to preserve property. It just doesn't exist. And I think there's other ways, if you can have discussion with the family, if there is some kind of terms, that you may be able to fit this in with other partners if push comes to shove. So I'd like to certainly hear from my fellow commissioners' thought processes on moving in a hybrid fashion from discussion with the family and so forth.
Commissioner Hurd.
So I'm going to tell you that I think there is a fourth approach, and that is I would not want to jeopardize the Florida Forever application by saying that we're moving forward in a hybrid fashion. However, I would like not to lose the time of what Commissioner Zimbauer is asking while we're moving forward in a Florida Forever fashion of getting the survey, getting an understanding of the cost, all of that good stuff. That should still be happening just so that we are prepared in doing our due diligence concurrent with Florida Forever doing what they need to be doing. I would suspect that on the application, maybe there wasn't, but there was a question as to whether or not we would be interested in being a financial partner in this acquisition. Was there not?
Yes.
There was. There's a nod in the back saying yes. So stay there, Rick.
Mr. Durr, yeah, I'm going to actually ask you to come down here because I have a feeling that we may, yeah.
So that question's been asked and answered.
That's right.
But going forward in a hybrid fashion, to me, sounds like we are going to go and compete for this piece of property, and that is not, I think, what your intention is.
No, my intention would be, you're absolutely correct, Commissioner Hurd, my intention would be to partner, if push comes to shove, which we don't know, with Florida Forever.
Which we agreed
on
to
this.
in the application. So
Right.
that's a number one for me.
Yeah.
That's a proceed with Florida Forever, but keep doing the work. Don't slow that roll.
I know you want to hear from others as well, but while you're saying that, I think what I'm hearing is, we know there are a lot of people who've been in the hopper for longer than us. But what I just heard the county manager say is, despite being, quote, late to the game, we've just been moved very quickly to a site visit and a follow-up, which I think is what had been alluded to me in the beginning of this process was, this is a very different piece of property for many reasons, and why it is, they're taking such great interest in it, and why they are moving quickly on it, even though other properties have been in the hopper for quite some time. I think asking us to go ahead and show interest that we're a partner, I think we are showing that because we made the application, and we have committed to giving funding, and we're going out to do the appraisal. So the only piece that I see that's different between number 1 and number 3, the moving forward as is and the hybrid, is an MOU with the family. That's the only thing that I see as being a differential when we talk through all of these pieces, and I'm not comfortable doing an MOU with the family at this point. That's where I am, but anybody else?
So if I can answer that real quick, and I understand what Commissioner Lockhart's saying, and I guess what I'm attempting to accomplish is, and I think some of us get it, is I want to make sure we're in a position to take down this property in the event that Florida Forever comes back in the first quarter of '24 or the last quarter of '23 and says, you know what, you're ranked, you're in there, but we're just not going to move forward anytime soon. And I think really the real question for my fellow commissioners are, if Florida Forever never happens, are you willing to take down this ground? And I think that's really, at the end of the day, the question. Now, we can wait for...
Well, my answer to that, I'm pretty sure, is no, but others may disagree.
Sure. Yeah.
And Commissioner Constantine?
In dealing with ARC before, and the process that we're going through right now, I will have to agree with the county manager that this is light speed for them, that to do a site visit in August is, I'm not going to say unprecedented, but it is unique. I think that although Commissioner Lockhart has said what she said, and I appreciate, because we all have our own considerations when it comes to this, I believe that the majority of this board has made it very clear to anybody that wants to listen that we are willing to, that we want to purchase this property if we can. That our first option, obviously, because of the wildlife corridor, the unique situation of this property, would be a Florida Forever purchase, but that we have already instructed our county manager to find us alternatives for the purchase if that does not go through, and I believe that if he's doing his job, he's doing that. I don't know where the folks that are part of the Yarborough process do not understand that we want to purchase this. I get the fact that it could be, if it comes back that Florida Forever says we're not going to be able to do it in a timely fashion, and then we have some concerns with the Yarborough family, that we better have Plan B and Plan C and Plan D and prepared. And we've talked about those other options. So I guess I'm in the same situation I was last time. At this, the last meeting we had, at this point, I get what Commissioner Zimbauer is saying, and I support the fact that, whomever, it's important and an imperative that we purchase, that we find a way to get this property purchased. I just think we've done everything we can do at this point, short of having a letter of intent, and I'm not prepared to do a letter of intent at this time.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Delary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Rick, can you talk to us a little bit about your conversation with the state of Florida and about what they've been talking about? So we can hear from you. I know the county manager's done a great job. No disrespect to Mr. Gray, but he's the one actually having the conversation. I like to hear it firsthand instead of thirdhand.
No offense taken.
For the record, Rick Durr, Leisure Services Director. Our staff had the conversation and had multiple conversations with the program manager at Florida Forever in Tallahassee prior to our application going in. At the time that this was being discussed, as you remember, we were bumped up against the submittal deadline. So we wanted to make sure that we had all of our bases covered in the application process. We did ask the question at that particular time if we were to do either an MOU or run an appraisal, because we needed to find out exactly who was going to be doing the appraisal and how that would work. The verbal response we had back from the program manager was, don't do any of that right now. That could endanger your application. Now, what that further means, that's about as far as we got. It was literally, if this passes muster, if the application is approved by ARC, they will work with the state real estate division, who will then run the appraisals based upon how they handle business. So we were advised to allow that to run its course. The application itself, obviously, we are the applicant, and as part of that, we needed to also be able to, I hate to use ensure is the wrong word, and it's too strong of a word, but we needed to write a management prospectus that said, okay, if the state buys the property, based on our application right now, would we be interested in managing the property, and how much would that cost? So we had to come up with a cost estimate and put that in there that said, all right, if it does go forward and it goes into public hands, this is what we think would need to be done. We've stated that obviously we would prefer that as this process moves forward, if the state does acquire the property, that there's probably a better way to manage that property. The Water Management District currently manages the maintenance of the other two parcels that the Yarborough own, and that it makes a lot of sense for state lands to then be able to move that into, say, management by the state and expand the state forests in that location. But that's too early to have that conversation right now. So they flat out said right now, yeah, we're glad you're applying. Here's what we think it's going to run. And when we get to that point in the entire process, then we can start having conversations. The other thing that happened is we were able to reach out prior to the presentation that was on last Friday. If we were asked specifically, do you have any letters of reference or letters of support to go ahead and send in? We actually got the Water Management District provided a letter in addition to 9 other letters that were sent in advance of the presentation last Friday. Good. So far, the reception has been by Florida Forever staff. Matter of fact, when we called them and I think we had a week left before the deadline, the response that we got was, we're very familiar with this property already.
Sure.
So in that case, and now just during lunch today, the program manager had an exchange with our staff. They've got a phone call set up for tomorrow morning to talk about logistics for the site visit for next Wednesday. So we're becoming old friends, is what it amounts to, the amount of contact that we've been having.
So, Rick, has there been any discussion with the state to get this to be more enticing for the state and to move it up on the want list if Seminole County would be a partner with them in purchasing it? Has that conversation happened?
Not yet. It's my take is that it's still too early. Quite honestly, we're going to have 10 representatives from various state agencies, including, state public lands and so forth, out on the property. When we're walking around, we can find out a lot about what their thoughts are moving forward. As Darren had told you, the county manager had told you, they've set the next meeting at August 11th. We thought it was going to be closer to September, October. August 11th is now the next time the ARC gets together again and has the conversation about how that may rank and how the rankings might fall out. So again, we don't have any indication yet. They voted to go ahead and proceed forward with a technical evaluation by the various state agencies that are represented on the ARC to then take that next step.
So with the properties that the ARC is moving forward with, or the state is moving forward with, has there been any local participation with them?
I watched all of the other presentations, and quite honestly, maybe there was one other that had a municipality or a county involved. They did hear testimony from the city of Tallahassee on another piece of property that actually was more controversial, and there's some questions of whether or not that stays on the list. There were in total 12 new applications. We were one of the 12. We heard from some folks on the ARC that another of the applications, while they voted to move ahead with it, may not continue down that path. But the intention is to go ahead, do this technical review, come back in August, have a discussion about it, and then look at how this will fall in terms of rankings.
What about the ones that have been approved? Have there been any local participation?
We'll have to get back to you on that one.
Commissioner Hurd?
Because that would have been for the last cycle. So
Correct.
this is for fiscal year '24 cycle. Yep.
Commissioner Hurd?
It's funny that you asked that question, because one of my follow-up questions was going to be, my thought is, I think, different probably from yours. I would actually prefer to keep this out of politics. And I don't think we should be participating until we're directed by you to participate. I think that would increase the chances that this goes through a very clean process. I would also tell you that if we have a project manager that told us don't do something, and he is the one that's shepherding this through the process, we should probably not do it. So that just kind of follow the breadcrumbs that we're being given would be my take. I think there are other things that we can do, but I want to be real clear on either you want us all at this site visit and you're going to post it, or you don't want us all at this site visit and we're not going to be there. But it's not we're just going to show up.
No, actually, we have a budget workshop, work session that day, so you all have to be here.
So I have no intention
No,
of
staff will
going.
take care of the site visit.
That falls in the you never know category, just in my experience
I
here.
need you
so.
here.
Yes, Commissioner Zembauer?
I just, and thank you all for all the input. I think the next move at this point is I think you need to have a candid conversation with the family to understand where they at. Explain to them where we're at, where Florida Forever's at, so they can have candid discussion with you, and whatever needs to happen from there, I guess you would just bring back to us and give us that information.
Sure.
I would talk about if Florida Forever is not a viable solution, what terms, if any, are there, if there are. I think I would cover all that ground sooner rather than later.
Sure.
So I agree that a meeting with the family's representatives would be great. I was at a meeting with the family, with Mr. Gray, and when we were told under no uncertain terms very explicitly, anything related to real estate, you talk to Mr. Axel and Mr. Tulp, you don't talk to us. And we tried to, narrow that down. And it was very clear that that was who they wanted. And so what I will say is, to Mr. Gray's credit, he has been in very close contact regularly with both of those individuals who the family directed him to speak with for many, many hours. So if there needs to be another conversation, I just want to make sure that Mr. Gray understands, I think he's doing exactly what we directed him to do as a board. And if there is more conversation that's needed with the family, I would like Mr. Gray to know exactly how many hours a week is he supposed to be in communication with Mr. Axel and Mr. Tulp, because nothing's changed yet. And we will not know anything different until after these visits and after that meeting. And frankly, I think these weekly updates and this constant discussion is continuing to put us in jeopardy in this process while we literally televise and telegraph what our thoughts are. And so that's my 2 cents on that.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
In response to Commissioner Zembauer's comments, if you are going to be talking to the family, I would avoid the use of finding out what their terms are, more what their expectations are, because we are not in a negotiation point with them at this point in time.
Understood. When I say family, I mean whoever's representing the family, which would be Mr. Axel.
We're avoiding the word
again,
terms.
Yes, because again, we're not making an offer, we're not soliciting an offer.
Understood.
Okay.
So, Madam Chair, I would echo what I believe Mr. Chipak is trying to say, that I would support what Commissioner Zembauer is talking about to try to find out what the family's expectations are. So that's what I think I'm hearing.
Yes.
And I think that's what I'm hearing from you as well.
Yeah. That's.
All right. Okay. All right, thank you so much, Mr. Durr.
Thank you.
And you want to talk to us about Wheelie Acres?
Yes, and I'll have Ms. Hammock come up and do a follow-up with the board. This will be really quick, promise.
Good afternoon. For the record, Rebecca Hammock, Development Services Director. Staff wanted to provide an update to you on a future agenda item regarding Wheelie Acres, which is an antiquated subdivision that we had previously discussed. The board had given staff direction to notify the affected property owners as well as surrounding property owners and schedule a community meeting. So we did have that community meeting and we did provide notice. Maya Athanas, Senior Planner with the Planning Division, did a great job coordinating that and scheduling that, so I'm going to let Maya provide the update.
Hi, good afternoon. Maya Athanas, Senior Planner for the Planning and Development Division, for the record. So as Rebecca said, this is for the Wheelie Acres subdivision, and then one additional parcel that is directly adjacent to it. I know we did talk about this at a previous meeting, and we were directed to go ahead and do a community meeting, which we did. Staff held the community meeting. We gathered as much information, thank you, no worries, to gather information and to give more opportunity. There were 3 property owners that had not already shown support or had any acknowledgement that they'd been notified of the request, and that request being a rezone from A1 to another single-family residential district and a future land use map amendment from commercial to LDR. So we did give notification to all of the property owners. We sent certified mailers to them, and we did receive all of them back, aside from 3. But those 3, I do want to mention, were from property owners who had already shown support initially, so we have now had correspondence with all of them. Let's see, the community meeting was on May 16th at 6 p.m. at St. Albans Church. It's approximately a half-mile from the subdivision. The only 2 attendees were Tamara and Ian Dowling, who are property owners of one of the parcels. They asked us why staff recommended R1A rather than any other of the single-family residential districts, in which we explained to them it was just the most compatible with the existing lot sizes and lot widths. And then as of right now, we have not received any opposition for the request. So moving forward, we would need to, if we decided to move forward with the administrative land use map amendment and rezone, it would have to be scheduled to go to the Planning and Zoning Commission and then ultimately come back to the board for approval. And that concludes the briefing.
Any questions?
That's Commissioner Delarey's district, isn't it?
Well, it is, and just wanted to see if there's any questions before I recommend that.
You brought this up previously.
Yes, I have.
Yes.
And we did ask the staff to do a community meeting, as I stated. I think staff is recommending to move forward and actually start doing the actual process, and I think that's what we should be doing the actual process, going to the P&Z board.
Is there consensus to move forward with the staff recommendation?
There is.
I got it.
You
I
have
have it. Yes, thank
All
you.
right, great.
Other than I think that it's not an antiquated area, I think it's just mature.
Oh, it sounds like we hit a nerve.
That's a way to put it.
Maybe.
And nicely done.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right,
And
anything else for us?
Just one last piece of good news. I just want to introduce, we have one of our new staffs here today, Christian Swinson, if you could stand up. Our new Assistant County Manager, as you all, I know a lot of you have already met him. He will be supporting our Public Works, Environmental Services, and Leisure Services, so he will be one of our go-tos on any items of that nature. Also, Andrea Wesser-Bronner, our Director of Strategic Initiatives, she's actually started yesterday, and she's will be supporting economic development, tourism, our KSPs, process improvement. She would actually be here today, but she's already hit the ground running somewhere else, so she's good. But I just wanted to welcome both of them.
Good, welcome.
I know that Andrea has met a few of you, but she'll be setting up individual meetings, as will Christian. So thank you.
Fantastic, thank you so much. Anything from the County Attorney's Office?
Not at this time.
All right, you sure? No?
Awesome.
I just think it's funny, the county attorney's office has so much going on, and yet they're like, yeah, we're not talking about it publicly, but we got it going on. District Commission report, starting with District 2.
Everything's perfect in District 2, nothing to report.
All right, District 3.
Although this is mostly in District 5, got a report from the DOT at the last Wekiva River Basin Commission meeting, and they believe that the Wekiva Parkway all the way through will be open before Thanksgiving.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
And other than that, just wanted to remind you all, if you haven't already, that the Florida Association of Counties is going to have their annual convention in Orange County beginning on the 27th, which I think that's our commission day, meeting day. So I will be leaving earlier that day, although I will be here for the meeting, but hopefully all of you will get a chance to go out there.
Great, thank you. District 5.
Oh, that's me. I just want to point out that I attended the Professional Women's Luncheon for the Chamber. I actually moderated, and there were 2 institutions in our community that were the speakers, and one was Bev Weinsberg, and the other was Alice Weinsberg. And they, Weinsberg, thank you, because you know I get that wrong. I've been getting it wrong for 20 years. And they did a phenomenal job and shared many, many tips of being a woman in leadership in this community, and it was really marvelous. It was absolutely nerve-wracking to try to moderate the 2 of them in a session. Just want to give a shout out to Jason, who did a wonderful job at the City of Sanford Memorial Day event. It was very nicely done. And I have a complimentary email. We don't get these like this very often. Don't panic, it's like in a size 11 font, and there's a lot of words on this page, and I can feel, she hasn't sighed yet, but I could feel you cringe from behind my shoulder.
How many digits? How many digits?
But this is actually from Michael Eason, and he is singing the praises of LaToya Hinson, who has worked as part of FPL to advance the lighting in the Lockhart District. We were at a standstill. We're struggling. This has been going on since the beginning of time of me getting elected, and we finally have moved the logjam. So a thank you to LaToya, and a big shout out to Michael for doing a recognition email. I thought that was wonderful. I would like to move the following board appointment of Mr. Jeff Wallace to the Contract Examiner Board for the
Second.
term expiring on 12/31 of '23.
Second.
Motion by her, second by Zembauer. All those in favor say aye. Sorry.
Aye.
I thought we were on autopilot for a minute.
I would like to appoint Tracy Wallace to the Seminole County Industrial Development Authority, term expiring 12/31/2026, and yes, they are related.
Second.
Motion by her, second by Delary. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
And 2 heads up, County Manager and I did talk, and I have resurfaced the idea of dashboards on the KPIs, because I just am not ever going to let that bone go, and he has graciously accepted to the baton to try to advance that, and I have requested an ARPA update, just to make sure that we're getting everything committed that we need to get committed. And that's it.
That it? All right. District 1.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know that Mr. Applegate is on PTO today, and he will be receiving the Distinguished Award for the 2023 Culpeper Outstanding Government Lawyer Award on Friday, the 23rd, at the General Assembly of the Florida Bar. And I think that's a huge accomplishment, and I think that we need to recognize him for that accomplishment. I'm not sure what the appropriate protocol would be, so Mr. Chipak, being that you're an attorney, obviously, what would be the appropriate way to recognize him and to show him our appreciation, either there, or what would be your suggestion?
Scotch.
Excuse me?
A bottle of scotch.
Yeah, I could do that privately, that's.
Cigars.
But I think the board needs to do something appropriately at that meeting.
Either potentially during the morning session when you have your proclamations. You may want to recognize him at that point in time.
Okay.
But again, he's a humble man, and I don't know whether he
I understand he's a humble
wants the
man, and
recognition, but
I
they're going to give it to him
appreciate that,
anyway.
but it'd be nice if we would recognize him so that he not only understands, but other people realize how much he's appreciated, how much that he's done.
Yes.
So could we put that, if it's okay with the commissioners, put that in your hands, Mr. Chepak, so that we can do it appropriately?
Yes, sir.
Okay, because I'm not an attorney, and I just want to make sure we're doing it the right way.
Sounds great.
Yes, thank you.
Is there any objections to that?
Commissioner
None.
Constantine?
No objection, I think that there's an award ceremony.
There is.
And I think it might be nice if I don't know what the circumstances, but if there's a table that is necessary and to purchase, or whatever the case may be, that we do that, and so that he could have the people he would like there.
And that's fine?
Yeah. I'm just thinking out loud.
Maybe you'll get us
something
some
he might
information about
appreciate.
Mr. Chepak, can
I
you
will get some
research that
information on it.
and get with the county manager?
Yes, we'll coordinate that and give you the information.
Thank you. Also, I know at the last meeting, I spoke about Brumley Road and about the fatality we had out there. And we're continuing to work. I wanted to thank not just our staff, but the Sheriff's Department, as well as the residents. We've been meeting out there. We had another meeting, I think it was yesterday. It's amazing how time flies. They're putting RPMs on the road. They're also doing some signage, as well as some other ways of identifying what the issue is out there. So far to date, that's the first level to try to get that situation under control, as well as the Sheriff's Department is out there in the evening to give, I guess, the proper tickets so that people realize that they're appreciated. And they've actually given a couple of tickets already, so I know that the more that happens and the more the word gets out, I'm sure that I'm hoping that that situation will start to subside. So I wanted to thank everyone for their hard work on that. Also, I forwarded everyone an email I got from the county, from Mr. Dredge, regarding the FDOT's functional reclassification of some of our roads, proposed changes. Didn't know if it would be appropriate to talk about it today or at another meeting. I want to make sure that everyone's up to date on it. Some of the local roads that they're doing, I think that we need to, in my opinion, local roads need to remain local and not an alternative road. And I'm concerned, and so I'd like to make sure that we're all up to speed on that. So I would like the staff to at least talk to each one of us individually first, and then if we need to bring it back for a board discussion, that'd be great. But, I can tell you right now, looking at Eagle Circle in Deer Run, that's presently a local road. To go to a minor collector, I don't think is appropriate. These are all local, excuse me?
Well, we're putting a park in there, so it
I
might
understand
be
that, but it's still.
a little more than a local road now.
Well, once we start bumping it up to collector roads, there is the potential, and I know it has to go in front of the board, but there is a potential of doing other things with it as well. And so I just want to make sure that everyone understands what these reclassification of roads would mean. And so that's why I think that staff needs to talk to us either in our office or as a group. And I think the first step would be individually, to see if everyone understands what the ramifications could potentially be in when these roads get reclassified.
Commissioner Hart, do you have a question? Then Commissioner Zembauer.
I agree on both fronts, individually and as a group. And more importantly, I think
Let me hand these out.
I have it.
Okay.
I think there's a bigger issue at hand, and that is, and John and I have gone around and around. I see you smiling, John, from the audience. John and I have gone around and around on this, is that once a classification happens, we have a staff opinion that we can't lower a speed limit on
That's
the street,
correct.
even though we put a path down the side with no curb in it and push a baby buggy down there. And so we finally did get the speed limit lowered by 5 miles an hour, but it was tough. And so we felt like we were operating outside of a confine. FDOT doesn't think that, but we do think that. There's a whole bigger can of worms that comes with this, and the reclassification, I think, exposes it even greater. So
that's
I
why
think it's a great way
I
to
think
get
it's
it on the
appropriate.
table.
Let's have staff brief us all individually,
Yep.
and if we feel it's needed to talk as a group, then we do that.
Gotcha.
Commissioner Zembauer?
Along those lines, is it possible for staff just to put a memo together in advance of meeting with us on what that actually means and what control we have currently versus if it changes designation, what control we do or do not have? Because I'm not so sure that we lose control when it changes classification. So that would be very helpful, I believe.
It's the definition of control.
Understood.
Yep.
Okay.
With that, Madam Chairman, I'd be remiss that if I did not wish all the fathers out there happy Father's Day, especially the ones that are here on the dais.
Thank you.
Commissioner
Thank you.
Zembauer. I know you're not just a father, but a grandfather, and there's also some other parents here as well.
You had to remind me of that part, right?
I think Commissioner Constantine was talking about, not doing antiquated anymore, seasoned. I think matured. I think that's also another way. And there's other individuals, not just on the dais, but in the audience and watching us. I just wanted to wish everyone happy Father's Day.
Thank you.
End of my report.
All right, thank you. I have one appointment to make as a part of my district report. Ms. Stephanie Sparks to the Committee on Aging as the end-of-life hospice representative. Ms. Sparks would be replacing the former representative, Christina Tedros, by completing the first term ending in December 31st, 2024, and starting a full second term ending December 31st, 2027. So Ms. Sparks was approved by the Committee on Aging at their May meeting, but we need to make that official here.
Move to approve.
There's a motion by Delary,
Second.
second by Zembauer. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you for that. Thank you to everyone who came out to the Memorial Day Remembrance Ceremony that was held at our courthouse. And thank you so much to our team who puts that together every year. It is always so well-run and so meaningful to all of the folks who attend. And it's done very efficiently, I might add. Really great. Although I do know when they do the gun salute, people that are walking out of the courthouse from having done business, I've watched a couple of them walk out and kind of not sure they were prepared for that. Commissioner Constantine and I took a tour of the Juvenile Assessment Center that is not quite open yet, but is about to open, and what an incredible upgrade that facility is for our families and our staff and the juveniles who we're serving in this community. It really was great to see. So kudos to everybody who was a part of pulling that together and to the project management team. As you all have been intimately aware, the search for the county attorney, we hope, has come to an end. We've put that in the hands of Commissioner Herr and the rest of the team to pull that together with Ms. Latour. Just want to say thank you to all of you for the time that you invested. I know this has been a rough year in terms of a lot of change and making some really important decisions, and I just want to commend all of us, frankly, for the way that we've moved through both processes. So.
No, I think, yeah, absolutely. But I think it's getting better. Our lives are getting better.
Yes, 100%, 100%. So that's exciting. I had the opportunity to present to the Seminole County League of Women Voters on Sunday. Their annual meeting was held Sunday afternoon. They had a variety of things that they were interested in hearing about, so we sort of did a modified State of the County. One of the things that they were very interested in, though, is the upcoming Charter Review Commission. And so we talked a little bit about the timeline for that and what the different requirements are for appointments and what have you. So if you get any calls from one from the League of Women Voters, I told them, call your commissioner if you want to serve. I know there will be a process that will go out, but they are very anxious and talking. They have a committee already established. They're very excited. I think that is all that this is what happens when I think, I'll remember that. I don't remember that. Well, if it's important enough, I'll get it to you through the
Yes,
county manager.
absolutely.
Do we have, we don't have any future agenda items. Do we have any public comment?
We have one, David Smith.
Mr. Smith, as you're coming down, I will just remind, maybe someone else would like to speak at some point, but our civility statement states that in accordance with the operating policy and procedures of the board, comments are public comments shall avoid personal attacks, abusive language, and redundancy. Disrespectful, rude, irrelevant, or slanderous remarks or disruptive behavior may subject the individual to removal from the board chambers, and the chairman may curtail repetitious comments. And I'm not reading that because it's you. I'm just reading it because I read it.
I am the only one here, but
Don't take it personally.
At least so far.
but well, good afternoon to the commissioners and Madam Chair, the rest of the staff. I'm David Smith, 2424 Orange Avenue, Sanford, Florida, and I am here today as part of a continued effort to highlight alternatives for the representation of the best interests of the community of Midway. I would like to speak of a vision that many community members, residents, and stakeholders alike envision for both the community of Midway's present and future. Now, Midway was once a thriving Black American community filled with blue-collar families and locally owned businesses. However, Midway today is less than half its physical size, and majority of citizens live below the poverty line. Despite these contemporary challenges, we still envision a community that is internally self-sufficient and independent and has independent sustainability for the future. Now, we want to see fully functional facilities created for the Midway Park to help promote a greater sense of intra-community engagement and historical relevance. We want to lead in the development of a local economy that is internal to the history of Midway. Local initiatives for business growth are currently centered around servicing the newer developments surrounding Midway. We don't want our children to be relegated to a caste of economic subordination for the servitude of other groups that are being attracted to this part of Seminole County. Finally, we want unobstructed political self-determination. We want to have the ability to make decisions impacting the present and future quality of life of Midway residents. We want the ability to explore and decide on scientific innovations for septic and wastewater management and control. We also want a greater voice in the decisions on how stormwater is managed and directed. And overwhelming amount of Midway residents and community members feel that our community has not only been benignly neglected, but also outright targeted by outside political and economic interests for decades, leading us to the current situation we see today. We want to see our ability to be self-sustained through collaborative efforts through local agencies. And that is my time. I do thank you for your time. You all have a good afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you. Could I ask, Mr. Smith, if you would?
Yeah, I've got a question.
Don't go away yet.
I'm so used to jetting.
I know. Well, you're not going to jet yet, so hold on just 1 second for me, because I want to make sure, I want to make sure that we understand exactly what the request is, because everything that you have said in terms of desire, I think makes complete sense, and I think that we are doing those things. So if we are not, if that's the community's sense, then we need to figure out where the disconnect is.
We should.
And this is not my district, this is Commissioner Herr's district, but I go back to the Midway community many, many years and used to support that area as a staff member here. So I just want to make sure that the county manager maybe, or some other member of our team at the county manager's direction can really sit down and work with you to understand what the needs are. Commissioner Zembauer?
My thought process is the same thing. There was a lot of things stated, and Mr. Smith's been here a couple of times and stated similar things. I would ask that if Commissioner Herr is willing to engage, because I think what I heard some of there, it almost sounds like a de-annexation process, and I don't know that that's really what they're asking or not, but.
Well, excuse me, I believe I was quite clear on, the vision that, many community members have for Midway. And I do know that Commissioner Hare has reached out to me, and she is willing to, work with the district.
Thank you.
But again, like I came the last 2 times, is to make things known and on public record that these are the wishes and wills and desires of the community of Midway.
So if Commissioner Hur could
Yeah, Commissioner Hur.
put that
Commissioner
list
Hur
together and
speak?
help us understand.
Could Commissioner Hur speak?
Sure.
So I have reached out. We've had a very nice conversation. The ball is in Mr. Smith's court. His path is that he would like to come and continue to get this on the record, and then at some point work with us to figure out where we go next. This is his path that's chosen. I cannot force you to go down a different path, nor do I want to. You've got you've got a system, and you're working it. He knows that I am here for him as the county commissioner that represents Midway. He's also expressed some other ideas to me that he's not ready to express publicly, and I think I'm respectful of his wishes.
As I'm respectful of the process.
Right.
Fair enough.
So we got it. We're working it. Mr. Gray is in the loop and understands what's happening, and so we're going to continue to listen to you, and we're all going to make the assumption that I'm not just blowing this off.
No,
That wasn't the assumption at all.
No.
That was not the
It wasn't
assumption.
clear.
It sounded that way.
No.
No.
I just wanted to make sure, it wasn't clear to me, because Mr. Smith's been here multiple times and said the same thing multiple times, which.
It's not the same
Question.
thing. If you listen, I'll defend you.
Okay.
Mr. Smith, if you would just have a seat, because we don't want this to turn into a dialogue.
But if you listen exceptionally carefully, it is not the same thing
Okay.
every time he comes. So I am paying very close attention. It sounds the same.
And I understand he's chosen a path of how he chooses to communicate to this board. Typically, public comment at the end of the meeting is for items that the community would like us to take action on. It is not an opportunity to get things on the public record. So we're going to have to determine as a board whether or not public comment is a time for creating a case or putting things on the public record, or is it a time to make comment for action that this board is being requested to take? I know that may seem like a very gray area, but communities all around this country, we are seeing that this public comment time is being used for purposes other than communicating directly with the elected body. It's actually being used to broadcast to the greater community at large an agenda. And I'm not saying that that is what Mr. Smith is doing, but at some point in time, we got to figure out why we're being addressed. So we're going to have to figure that out. All right?
Sounds like Mr. Gray and Commissioner
Yeah.
Hur got it.
Yep, sounds good.
Well, and I think that is a really important distinction, and what I would say is that we'll take direction from our attorney and county manager, and then my commitment to you is I'll communicate that back to you once we decide, so that you're not sitting through 5 hours of meetings if that's not what we're going to do. We'll make sure that you know, Mr. Smith.
Any other public comment? Anyone here that would like to address the board that just hasn't had a chance to fill out a comment form yet? No? With that, we'll close public comment. And anything else for the good of the order? All right, we'll be adjourned at 3:17.